What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the final Dynasty Coaches episode before the football season starts back up. Finally, we have football. I am your host, as always, Coach Dylan, along with my co-hosts, Coach Nick and Coach Charlie. How you guys doing today?
Doing good. Good to be here. It's nice to get all three of us.
Heck yeah, it's been a long time.
Been kind of busy lately,
so we got a good show for you. We're gonna go over a couple of news and notes here, and then we got the NFC Tight Ends for the last episode here before the season starts. We did the AFC Tight Ends last week, me and Nick. So we'll go and get started here with the fantasy news. All right, first news item here. Texans sign O.J. Howard. It's a bit of a surprise because Brevin Jordan's been on everybody's list as a possible breakout tight end this year. Do you think it's still possible? O.J. Howard was that first-round draft pick way back in, 2017, 18, something like that? So what do you guys think? Do you think he's the new tight end to own?
Well, I think this was kind of just a let's get as many weapons for Davis Mills as possible so we can make sure last year wasn't a fluke. In terms of fantasy, it's not a good look for Brevin Jordan because those two are obviously going to be sharing time together, and it's very rare for fantasy for two tight ends to succeed, especially on the same team. It's just not something you see all the time, unless you're on the Eagles, of course, way back when.
Yeah, Eagles and Patriots, I think the only two teams we've ever seen.
Right, and so I don't know. Are the Texans going to replicate that? I mean, my guess would be no. So I think this is going to harm both of them because they're going to split. It's good for Davis Mills, but not really good for anyone else.
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment. I think it's going to be good for Mr. Mills. I think it's like that they're trying to make sure that they give him the tools necessary to go out and succeed. That way, when he doesn't or when he does, they can say that they supported him and they know what they have now. I think this is more of a testament to their wanting to know what they have in Mills, not so much in what they don't have in Jordan. So I think long-term, Jordan's your long-term solution. I don't think Howard's going to spend the rest of his career or what have you there. I don't think he's going to make an impact that he takes away that concrete number one spot.
Yeah, I hear you. Texans got to make a decision on Mills this year because they're probably not going to be very good this year and have a high draft pick next year. And there's a lot of good quarterbacks coming out. So we'll move on here to next news item here. Dawson Knox gets the 4-year extension, $53.6 million for 4 years. First of all, impact on Allen, and then this is obviously good for Knox. Does he move up in your guys' rankings?
Yeah, I have Dawson Knox in the back of my top 10, and I think it solidifies him there for me. I was considering moving him down a little bit for a couple other guys I had. But him being locked into Buffalo, having Josh Allen throwing him the football, loves him in the red zone. We saw it for a nice chunk of the season last year. So that's nothing but good news. And, at tight end position, touchdowns are what makes you – unless you're Travis Kelce, or one of those top 4 tight ends, touchdowns are a premium. And Dawson Knox is the one who's been getting them. So having Josh Allen, for 4 more years, finding him in the red zone is nothing but good for me. So he's top 10 still.
Yeah, I agree. I think we said that last week when we kind of discussed some of our tight ends. Dawson Knox is definitely – he's not top 5. He's probably somewhere in that, 7 to 8 range for me, that back end of the top 10. But no, I think this does nothing necessarily to improve his positioning, but it really does solidify where he's at in that ranking. Makes you more comfortable drafting him or trading for him. If you have a possibility for trading, what we talked about last week, go out and trade for the guy if you have the chance. And now this just makes you all the more confident with pulling that trade.
I agree with that 100%. I'm much more confident in going out and trading for the guy now that I know that he's locked up for the next 4 years. So, with the best quarterback in football right now. So, last news item here. Zach Wilson, we found out due to his injury in the preseason, he's out until at least week 4. Joe Flacco will be the starter in New York. What does this do for Garrett Wilson and all the other weapons in New York?
Well, I actually like this for Elijah Moore because in that period where Zach Wilson was out last year, he and Joe Flacco showed a bit of a connection together in a few games they got to play. So there's a familiarity already there.
Yep.
So I think he's not really harmed as much. I think he kind of retains his standing. Maybe he gets a little bit of a boost. But I think that might hurt Garrett Wilson and some of the other other weapons they have. A tight end. I forget if they have a tight end.
CJ Uzama.
Yeah, Uzama and I think Jeremy Ruckert, the guy they drafted out of Ohio State. So it doesn't do much good for those guys, but I like Elijah Moore. I think it solidifies him as a back-end wide receiver too for me, maybe a little more potential for something else for those first few weeks at least. So he's someone I'd be comfortable starting in my lineup as a flex or as like I said, a second wide receiver. But I wouldn't put too much trust in anyone else, except maybe I want to see how the running backs play out too. You know, what the Hall-Carter split looks like, because that's going to be the big thing. If we find out who's going to get a lot of the targets, that person's going to become an instant flex play for me, because Joe Flacco is not the most mobile quarterback in the world. He's going to dump it off. The running back's going to get some catches.
So that was the exact point I was going to. I was like, all right, Charlie took the wideouts. He took the ball throwing. We're good there. I'm going to go to my concern. And
Nick, I stole your thunder, my man. I'm sorry.
No, you're good, big dog. You're good. We're all going to talk about it. You know what I mean? That's what we're here for. So that was my point exactly. Who's going to tote the rock, right? Because Flacco is not a spring chicken. He is not the young man he was when he was in Baltimore, right? He's taken some damage. He's taken some time, and Father Time waits for no man. So he's not going to be slinging that thing all around everywhere. So wide receivers, yes, I like the connection with Elijah Moore. I think it hurts literally everybody else except for him. And it's going to be a very good thing for our fantasy minds, because we'll get to see who is going to be that clear number one, right? Is it going to be Carter? Is it going to be Hall? I think this takes that pressure off of Hall and off of Carter, but really mostly Hall to go out and be a monster right out of the gate, because he's not going to have to compete with all these other talent and all these other targets. Now the ball is firmly in running back room's court. It's going to be up to them to figuratively and non-figuratively drop the ball, right? So we're gonna really see what you get out of those two running backs. So I'm excited to see what comes from Hall. I'm actually glad I took him in all of my leagues.
Yeah, I agree with the running back sentiment. I think it's good for them because the team's going to lean more on that running game, like you guys said, at least in the first 4 weeks. But, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. I mean, with the pass catchers here. Have we seen enough out of Zach Wilson to say that he is 100% like loads better than Joe Flacco is right now? I mean, even if he was to stay healthy for 17 games, he was only on pace to finish as the 24th ranked quarterback last year.
Yeah.
So, is it that big of a hit?
Yes.
Why?
What? You kidding me?
Why though? I get it. But Zach Wilson has the youth and he has the arm strength and all that, but we haven't seen anything out of Zach Wilson yet to tell us that he's going to be good for Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson.
So Flacco, along with the youth, along with the arm strength, along with the running ability, along with the athleticism, right, along with the raw talent, is lacking the fire, right? That's the reason Wilson got hurt in the first damn place, is that he was pissed that he had a bad series. He went back out there to prove something, and it ended up costing him. But Flacco doesn't have that. Flacco's not going to light a fire under your team and get them motivated to go out and win a game.
But he's not going to turn the ball over like Zach Wilson does.
Okay, and how did that work out for Smith?
Elijah Moore finished pretty good last year. With
on fire?
I'm just saying, I don't know how much of a hit it is at quarterback. Obviously, it's a hit going from Zach Wilson to Joe Flacco, but I don't know if it's going to be a huge, huge difference. I haven't seen enough out of Zach Wilson to say, holy cow, this is detrimental to the receivers. So we'll go on and move on, though. Move on to our topic of the week, the NFC Tight Ends. We'll start with the NFC East. Cowboys, Dalton Schultz finished as tight end 3 last year in PPR. He had 104 targets. They lost Amari Cooper this year. He's probably going to be the number 2 target in Dallas right behind CeeDee Lamb this year. His targets probably will go up. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think this puts him in top 5 territory again for another finish as a tight end. Like you said, meaning, not a lot of solidified options behind CeeDee Lamb. You got an unproven rookie in Jalen Tolbert, and you got the often injured Michael Gallup. So need a reliable target for Dak Prescott. Up steps Dalton Schultz. Did it last year. He can do it again. He'll get his opportunities in the red zone and in between the sticks. Tried and true. It's just going to be a repeat top 5 season for him. Don't really need to go too much into it.
Yeah, I agree with Dalton Schultz. I mean, he's 1 touchdown below Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce and all of those god tight ends. He's literally 1 touchdown off of them. Now the big difference is the receptions, and like you just said, that's going to go through the roof here with his targets, his receptions. I mean, if you got him, hold on to him. Obviously, if you have an opportunity, dumb enough getting rid of him, then yeah, if the price is right, grab that dude. But
Could we be looking at a 100-catch, 1,000-yard season?
Yes.
Yeah. Matt, I agree with everything you guys said. I mean, he's definitely top 5 for me. So, move on to the Giants. Daniel Bellinger. Put him because the other guys aren't looking like they're going to be anything. Ricky Seals-Jones is not looking great.
You got
Ricky, do we see a Pat Freiermuth type season out of him?
Yeah, speaking as someone who has been paying heavily attention to the Giants, much of a detriment to my personal well-being as that is, Daniel Bellinger has been one of the bright spots. He's been looking good in camp. He didn't have a drop his senior year in college. Ricky Seals-Jones got cut, had a really bad camp. Injuries to the other members of the tight end room, so that kind of leaves Daniel Bellinger. And Daniel Jones is going to want a reliable guy because there's a lot of question marks in that wide receiver room. There's no arguing with the talent, but every single one of them, except for Wan'Dale Robinson, has injury concerns across the board. So having someone like Daniel Bellinger who can kind of step in right away and be maybe a bit of a safety blanket, because the two were connecting in camp quite a lot. And I don't think we're going to see anything crazy out of him this year, but like a top 15, bottom of the top 15 tight ends this year would not shock me.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't know a whole lot about this young man, but from what you're saying there, it sounds like he's got infinite potential and really nobody in his way to proving that potential. So it sounds like it's up to him. It's his ball to drop, and we'll see what he can do with it.
Yeah, it's gonna depend on Daniel Jones. Can he take that next step? Because there's a lot of mouths all of a sudden to feed in New York. You got Golladay, you got Tony, you got Wan'Dale Robinson. Now you got Bellinger. Still have Sterling Shepard whenever he comes back. Saquon Barkley. So who's going to take that shot? I mean, Bellinger could be at least a red zone threat at the very least. And we've all said what touchdowns do for the tight end position. So going to move on here. Eagles, Dallas Goedert finishes tight end 8. He still has Jalen Hurts throwing the ball, but they added A.J. Brown for him also. So now the Eagles are looking at A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and Dallas Goedert. What do you guys think? Does he have top 5 potential?
No, not top 5, but I do think another placement like in the 8 or 9 or 10 range is definitely likely. Having another weapon in A.J. Brown does take away some targets and opportunities, but it also opens up more opportunities in the same sense. I know that sounds kind of weird, but having, 2 high-profile wide receivers in A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith will take more of the defensive attention away from Dallas Goedert, meaning that he'll get his share of opportunities, especially in the red zone, which I think will be enough to supplement the lack of the decrease in targets that I'm expecting to keep him in the back of the top 10 for tight ends.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would be fair to kind of put him in that 9 to 11 range, maybe right outside the top 10 or just inside the top 10. His targets are going to go down. It's inevitable. But like Charlie said, the nice thing, especially in that red zone, it's going to open up opportunities for him. So his targets may go down, his receiving yards may go down, but you're going to see a fairly significant uptake in his touchdowns. So is that going to offset? I don't know, because it depends on how far down his target and his receptions drop, but more touchdowns for the tight ends, like we've been saying this whole time, is better and better. So
I agree. I think he might be closer to 5 than 10. I mean, I don't think he's going to be top 5, but like 6 or 7, I think he's going to finish. I'm a bigger believer in Jalen Hurts than most people, though, so I think he's actually going to take his next step and be pretty decent for fantasy throwing wise. So, but we're going to move on. Logan Thomas here finished his tight end 45, but he was hurt a lot last year. Is he still the number 1 tight end on the Commanders? Because they got 2 young tight ends that I think they drafted John Bates last year and Cole Turner this year. So it kind of seems like they're trying to replace him, maybe? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think this was tight end insurance because of the injuries that Logan Thomas has suffered. So I think that when all said and done, if he's healthy and he's playing on the field, Logan Thomas is going to be the number 1 tight end because of his experience and his production in the past. The Commanders are just preparing in case of something else happening, and having depth at the position is never a bad thing. So if he's healthy and he's ready to go, I think Logan Thomas can be a top 15 tight end without a problem, could sneak into the top 12. But I'm not ready to put him above some of these other guys yet until I can see that he's, back to what he was.
Yeah, I think I struggle with this one just because there's a lot of factors that go into this. Like Charlie said, the draft picks, that's positional, security. I get it. So you draft John Bates because Logan Thomas has injury concerns. Cool, I understand that. But then you go and draft Cole Turner. So you've drafted tight ends back-to-back years. That starts to make me wonder as a player, what am I doing wrong that these guys are having to continually bring in talent, not just through free agency, but they're actually investing draft capital to bring people into this room to do something with. So there's a concern there. His injuries are obviously a concern. And then for me, the biggest concern is who is throwing him the ball. That's my concern for this season with Logan Thomas. He has a healthy season. Everything's great. He plays every single game. Is he going to improve upon these dismal numbers? Obviously. Start talking about top 15, top 12. I don't know. I don't know if he is going to get there, not based on his own merits, but based on the merits of the individual passing the ball to him.
Yeah, I'm not big on Logan Thomas really at all this year. I'm trying to stay away from all the Commanders tight ends. Really all the weapons outside of Gibson and McLaurin. I'm not big on any of the other ones, but we've seen Carson Wentz be decent for tight ends, at least in Philly. Do you think, maybe possibly the tight end position is the position that might thrive in this offense with him?
I'm not sold on that.
Okay.
Not with the resources that were also just invested in wide receiver with Jahan Dotson. Then they had invested a draft pick in Brian Robinson at running back, before his the unfortunate incident that happened to him. Hope he gets better soon. Yeah. But it seems like, running back and wide receiver were the positions they really want to invest a lot of draft picks in. Yeah. Because they want to make those better for Carson Wentz. So I think tight end's not really up there on the list.
Right.
But that's just me.
Moving on to the NFC North here. The Bears, Cole Kmet, finishes tight end 21, but he's looking great in preseason right now. It seems like he has a pretty good connection with Justin Fields. He's going to be that number 2 option, I would think, on the Bears this year. Does he have possible top 5 potential?
I mean, God, do I hate the Bears and what they have going on over there, but boy, do I love Justin Fields and Cole Kmet.
Yeah.
Bears.
What everyone's saying about Jalen Hurts, I don't see why Justin Fields, doesn't have the ability to take that similar leap and break out. Because the rushing potential, improvement as a passer, I can see it. There's just obviously not a lot around him, so it might not show as much. Besides Darnell Mooney, and then number 2 option is going to be Cole Kmet. I'm just convinced. Like you said, meaning, camp was great for Cole Kmet. I've been trying to get shares of Cole Kmet where I can, because if he's being drafted, that late in the tight end rankings in the 20s, that's just you're going to recruit so much value on that because I am convinced he's going to be a top 12 tight end. Based off of me, even if nothing else, volume alone, they don't really have a red zone guy. So it's going to be him. Yeah. And I'm banking on a Justin Fields breakout.
You know, I've always liked the play of Fields. I've liked his progression. I've liked what I've seen out of the kid. Losing Robinson, losing some options there, I think that you could absolutely put Kmet in the top 15 conversation, maybe a little bit higher up that towards the number 10, but I'm going to keep him top 15 for right now. And got 93 targets. That was a lot of targets for a tight end, realistically. He's up there at top 15 for average targets, I would imagine, if not a little better. So let's see him do a bit more with it. Let's see him get those red zone targets and bring him down and get those points to count. And I think he's going to have a great season. Great season.
I agree. I've been trying to get a hold of Cole Kmet now for last couple weeks. I mean, he's starting to become unbuyable right now with his preseason performance, but I mean, go out and get him if you can, because I think he's probably going to be the next top 5 tight end out there. I mean, we could be looking at a Dawson Knox and Dalton Schultz type season where they kind of came out of nowhere last year for it. So we'll move on to TJ Hawkinson. Finished his tight end 15 last year, PPR. He was drafted above Noah Fant in their rookie class, right? I believe he was.
Yeah, Hawkinson was 8. I think Fant was like right after that.
Are we ever going to see him live up to his potential? I mean, tight end 15 is – I think he has top 5 upside, but will we see it?
If he's healthy, he was on pace for it last year before he got hurt.
Is he injury prone? Can you slap that title on him?
You can slap that title on a lot of players.
Yeah.
So I try to avoid using that label unless absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard a lot of really, really good things about the Lions camps and their seasons. I've heard a lot of really good chatter coming out of that area. So I think that he has a lot of upside. He's got a lot to prove still, but really the onus of proving that is 100% on him at this point, because the sounds of it, the team's gelling, the coach is gelling, everybody's on the same page. And if he doesn't go out and produce this year, I think that'll be on him.
I was looking at Jared Goff whenever he was with the Rams. I believe 2019 was Tyler Higbee's best year, and he finished as tight end 9. Do you think he can finish better than tight end 9 right now with Jared Goff at the QB position?
I don't see why not. I mean, the Lions have – I don't know. It's not talked about enough. The Lions have one of the best offensive lines in football. You know, they've wanted to build through the trenches, and they've done that tremendously well. You know, with Frank Ragnow, the drafting of Penei Sewell, you know, they built a very strong front 5 to protect Jared Goff. And, you know, we've seen it in, you know, before when he led them to the Super Bowl. If you give Jared Goff a competent offensive line, he can make the throws and get the job done. And he has the weapons at his disposal to do so. TJ Hawkinson is one of the better ones.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I hope we see TJ Hawkinson break out and be top 5 potential that we know he has. You just got to stay healthy, man. So we're going to move on here. Packers, Robert Tonyan finished tight end 50, but again, he was hurt a lot of the season. Is there any world where Robert Tonyan leads the team in targets? He's got the rapport with Rodgers.
Unlikely. I've talked about this before when the Packers have come up. I think this is kind of going to be a ride the hot hand week by week basis type of thing. At least those have been the reports coming out as well. I just think it's going to kind of be Rodgers spreads the ball. He doesn't, like I said, he doesn't have Devontae Adams anymore. He doesn't have the one guy he can continuously feed the ball to. But I do think Robert Tonyan, if healthy, is going to, you know, see the majority targets in the red zone. And I think that's where his value is going to come into play, because he was a top tight end in fantasy, you know, a couple years ago because of how much he was targeted in the red zone and the touchdowns that he scored.
Yeah, he was finished 4th in 2020, so.
Yeah. So if he gets the targets and he gets the opportunities, if he scores touchdowns, that's going to be his thing because he's not going to be relevant in fantasy if he doesn't score touchdowns.
I don't know. You know my feelings on Aaron Rodgers, and
yeah, we don't need to go into that.
You love him, right?
Pretty much anything to do with Green Bay. I was ecstatic. I found our Lord and Savior again when Devontae Adams decided not to sign with them. Yeah. I don't know. This one's hard for me. I don't think that a tight end will be the number one target getter in Aaron Rodgers-led offense. No, I guess I'll answer your question and keep my opinions to myself.
All right, we'll go and move on here. Irv Smith Jr. with the Vikings. He was everybody's breakout tight end last year until he got hurt in the preseason, hurt in the preseason, right, last year. Right now he's probably fighting for the number 3 option in that passing game behind Jefferson and Thielen. Maybe even 4 behind Cook. What do you guys think about Irv Smith?
Another year, another Irv Smith Jr. breakout potential season. I feel like I've been saying it forever now, but he just hasn't been able to stay healthy. The potential's there, big body for the red zone, but not really someone I'm willing to go out and make my starter on a week-to-week basis. He's an intriguing, second option at the tight end position if I grab a good starter early, because there is some obviously breakout appeal with a much more pass-heavy offense with Kirk Cousins under center. So there's some intrigue, but it's not really. I'm not going to get him to start, but I'll get him to be a tight end too. Let's leave it at that.
So in my dynasty league, we start two tight ends, and I usually carry 3 or 4 depending. I always keep a rookie guy on the roster every year just in case he breaks out, and then I keep that one vet that I've been keeping an eye on, and then I have my 2 committed starters, right? So this year I've got my Goddard, I got Hawkinson's, they're my 2 starters, and then I have Irv Smith hanging in there in the 3rd spot because just like Charlie said, I don't want to throw him into my rotation every week with that kind of hopeful reliance upon him because I don't think he's there yet. But I am definitely going to hold on to him since I have space and the ability to do so because do I think the potential is there? Yes, I do. Do I have faith in that potential right now? No, not yet.
Yeah, I'm not huge on him either. I do think that, we heard Justin Jefferson earlier in the offseason saying this is no longer a run-first team. So that to me says they're going to be throwing the ball a lot more. But he's a guy that I'm stashing, like, if you can still stash him on taxi, on the bench, whatever. He's not going to be my starter. I don't even know how I feel about him being my number 2 right now. I think I'd rather have a lot of other guys to be my number 2. Safer, I guess, but I don't know. We'll see. I think he's a breakout candidate, definitely, but I don't know how much of a breakout candidate. So, going to move on. NFC South here, Falcons. Kyle Pitts. Is he the number 1 tight end in Dynasty in football right now? Ridley is suspended for the whole year, so it's him and the rookie, Drake London. What do you guys think?
He's still 2.
2? Behind
Mark Andrews is number 1 in my book.
Okay.
And Mark Andrews is going to be number 1 in my book until Kyle Pitts, has a better year than him. Simple as that. I get there's the age difference. He had a solid year last year, not spectacular. But Mark Andrews was incredible, and he's the obvious weapon of choice for Lamar Jackson and has been. So that's going to be good enough for me in that retrospect at least. But number 2, he's still going to be incredibly good as Kyle Pitts. He's the obvious number 1 choice in Atlanta. He just has a really, crappy quarterback situation, which I think is going to hold him back a little bit. And he's probably going to be double-teamed, if not triple-teamed, a lot of the time because there's no one else there besides Drake London.
Is he number 2 in both Dynasty and redraft?
2 in Dynasty. I would put him towards the back of the top 5 in redraft because I think I would rather have Kelsey Kittle, maybe Waller ahead of him.
I agree 100% with everything that Charlie just said. I think Matt Ryan there, maybe look at kind of like a 1A, 1B situation with Andrews and him. With the uncertainty at their quarterback situation, even with him being the only target there, I think that clearly puts him at number 2, right? Like Charlie has always said, he's going to get points through volume, right? He's going to be a volume point person, but I just don't know what type of season he's going to have, because he's the only threat until Drake London reveals himself as a threat that they have. That's it. So, I mean, if I'm a defensive coordinator, I'm pinning people to this kid, and that's going to be the entire night. I'm going to pressure the quarterback, flush him out, and I'm going to pin people to Kyle Pitts like flies to you-know-what. So, I think it hurts his season. It hurts his numbers. But, of course, he's going to be a by-the-volume type of player. So he's going to see numbers. He's going to get yards. I don't think he's going to get an ungodly amount of touchdowns. So for a tight end, he's clearly in the number 2 to Mark Andrews. And I actually wouldn't be surprised if he fell to the bottom of the top 5.
I'm going to say he's probably in redraft bottom top 5, like you said, probably 4 or 5. But I'm going to say Dynasty, he's my number 1. I mean, yes, they're going with Mariota and Ritter this year, but they're probably going to be the worst team in the league, I would think. So you got to start thinking towards the 2023 season, and they're going to get one of those 2 top QBs next year, I believe, in CJ Stroud and the kid from Alabama, Bryce Young. So, I mean, the guy, we haven't seen a talent like him in a long time at the tight end position. I mean, he's a tight end. He's a wide receiver playing tight end, ultimately. And I think that one receiving touchdown that he had last year, I mean, that's what the hell? He's 6'6", 246 pounds. I mean, just throw the ball up and let him stand there above everybody else and catch it. So I think that the TDs go up for sure this year, and I have him as my number 1 tight end in Dynasty. So I love Mark Andrews, but
my other issue here, Meanie, is look at his targets to receptions. I mean, he dropped almost half of his targets. Either he dropped it or they were just off the mark or they weren't catchable, but still almost half.
I hear you, but he's still a rookie last year. I mean, as good as Kyle Pitts was,
you just put him as tight end Jesus, and then you're gonna give him the rookie excuse?
I agree.
And think about that; those were all with Matt Ryan under center.
I agree.
With freaking
I agree, but at the same time, he's still a rookie, so we have to still throw that in. We still have to throw in the fact that he was a rookie. He's learning how to play in the NFL. He's learning a new offense. He's learning how to beat NFL linebackers, safeties, whoever's on him. He's had a offseason now to where he knows he's the guy. He's had an offseason to learn Mariota, learn the offense that was new. I think we're about ready to see. I think Kyle Pitts can beat the double teams. I think he can survive against a triple team. I think he's that type of talent.
So along that same argument of the rookie excuse, could you not give Zach Wilson that same argument versus Joe Flacco?
You could, yes, you could. But at the same time, we've seen very solid production from Kyle Pitts in his rookie year. Zach Wilson was not great last year. Zach Wilson was not great last year. Kyle Pitts finishes number 6 tight end.
I mean,
tight end is a notoriously weak position in fantasy. That's the weakest position. That's some weak stuff right there.
Still, I would take the number 6 tight end over the number 30 quarterback.
I mean, Wilson showed flashes, and I don't know. I feel he was injured too. I feel like if you're gonna make excuses, we get to make excuses for Zach Wilson.
I agree. I'm going to say Zach Wilson has the potential to be good.
Right. Well,
I'm just saying at this point of his career, I don't know how much of a downfall it is from going from Zach Wilson to Joe Flacco at this point of his career.
Okay,
Now, potential, yes, there's a lot more potential for these guys with Zach Wilson.
I mean, my
But
problem.
I think the floor comes up with everybody else.
My issue with this comparison here is that if I gave you Zach Wilson and said Zach Wilson threw the ball 300 times last year and only connected 150 times out of those 300 times, you would look at him and go, that dude's a bust. He's only connecting on 50% of his passes. He's a bust.
Yeah.
And you're going to look at Kyle Pitts and say, oh, well, he was a rookie. That's why he dropped half of his passes. Well, wait a minute now. There's something to be said about that. Look, I still believe in the guy. I think he has incredible potential. Everybody should be drafting him if he's there in front of him. But there's something to be said about dropping half your passes. Or maybe they're uncatchable and they still count it as a target. I get it. But what's the rule? If you can put a hand on it, you can catch it.
All right, I'm going to look something up, but we're going to move on here. Adam Troutman, Saints, your Saints. Talk about your freaking
Yep.
Your
take the wheel here, Nick.
Breakout tight end here, Nick. That everybody thought was going to do it last year and didn't do it.
Let the fandom lead the way. May the fandom be with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I said last year was supposed to be his year, and then it didn't happen either. So I just don't know. I think that if there was going to be a time for him to break out, it was last year, because now you've got Olave, you've got Landry, you're getting Thomas back. Like, he's getting just absolutely smothered. And then they moved Taysom Hill to tight end officially on the roster. So I don't know. I feel bad for Troutman at this point. I think he is a good kid, had a lot of potential, squandered his year last year. Unfortunately, it's really not his fault, because his quarterback was supposed to be Famous Jameis, and that ended up not working out either. So I don't know. I think he's going to be mediocre. I think he's going to have a good but not great season. I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up in like the top 25.
I'll bow to the superior judgment of Nick, since I really haven't not too familiar with Adam Troutman, since I know he did kind of get screwed over last year. But the same, like you said, the Saints have a lot of weapons, so I kind of think he's just going to get buried.
I think he sucks just because he's in New Orleans. So. No, he's definitely a breakout, but I don't know. We said that last year to bit everybody in the ass. So we'll go on to Cameron Brate with Buccaneers. He's got Tom Brady this year. He's shown decent stats with Tom Brady in the past. What do you guys think? I mean, tight end 30, is that closer? Is he closer to tight end 30, or can he have at least tight end 2 potential?
Yeah, I think he could sneak up there in the right circumstances, but it's going to be tough because there's a lot of weapons in Tampa Bay. You know, you got Mike Evans, you got Chris Godwin, you got Russell Shepard. You know, they brought in Julio Jones as well. Not to mention they drafted Kate Otten as well. Gave themselves another option at tight end. So, and you obviously have Leonard Fournette, and they drafted Rachaad White too. So, a lot of mouths to feed in the passing game. Is there going to be enough for Cameron Brate? It depends on if he wants to have another Gronk-like guy in the red zone. Obviously, not the same as Gronk, but you catch my drift, the big body in the red zone. And, maybe Cameron Brate is that guy. And that would be the only thing that could push him into tight end 2 territory for me. Otherwise, it's kind of a stay away, not really a guy I want.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm going to add one last thing to all of the detriments that Charlie put up there, and that's the mangled offensive line, right?
Yeah.
They've had some injuries there. They had some free agencies, things go down. That offensive line is not what it's been in years past, where Brady's gone out and done incredible things with a good O-line in front of him, and I just don't see this being Brady's year. I think this will be the year where we kind of look at Brady and go, yeah, Brady looks like he's 45 or 4,200, however old he is these days.
About time he retires.
So I think this will be the season that pushes Brady to retirement, because, and like, I'm actually retired, not I'm going to go to Disneyland and think about it retired. yeah, he's going to be under fire. That O-line's not going to hold up. He's going to be getting rid of that ball quicker. It's going to be check down after check down, and it ain't going to be a tight end.
Do you guys think Kid Otten, who they drafted, is going to be a threat at all?
I think he's a nice little sleeper pick for Dynasty. But other than that, I really don't know too much about him. I don't know what his deal has been going on in camp at all. So I'm kind of just watching and waiting to see what the first couple games hold.
I agree. I think I would hold him in that kind of fourth spot that I told you guys about on my Dynasty team, where I kind of keep one of those rookie guys in reserve to see if he's going to do something just based on the fact that he is with Tom Brady. I just don't. Again, that O-line scares the hell out of me for him.
All right. I agree. I'm not really targeting Brate, but I mean, we all say tight end or touchdowns are extremely important for the tight end position. Tom Brady throws a lot of touchdowns, so at least for this year, he might be somebody to at least stash, and you might get something big from him. So, move on to the NFC West here. Cardinals, Zach Ertz. Is he once Hopkins comes back? Is he going to be anything? Plus, we have Trey McBride, who they drafted, I believe, in the second, third, somewhere around there. What do you guys think? Is he still top 5 potential where he finished last year?
Yeah, I think we're going to get a top 10 tight end season out of Zach Ertz. Trey McBride really hasn't flashed too much in camp. They kind of been just relegating him with the backups for now. He's there, but he's not really too much of a threat. The Cardinals are kind of in that win now push, so they can't really rely on rookies. And then you even bringing in, pieces to help Kyler Murray. They just extended Kyler Murray. So I'm convinced that they're going to rely on the vet. And Zach Ertz was good in those games that he played with Arizona last year, and he's a proven weapon for Kyler Murray, and it can just be him and Hollywood Brown for those first 6 weeks to start out the season because of the suspension to DeAndre Hopkins. And I think those are the weeks where he's going to push for top 5 tight end, and he's probably going to drop back a little bit after that. But I still think he can end up the year as a top 10 tight end.
I agree. I think they showed a lot in what they asked of him when he stepped into their team, mid-season or however far into the season it was. No time to get to know people, no time to really get his feet underneath him, and he immediately started making an impact. So I wasn't very impressed with Hopkins' season last year, to be real frank. So I think there's a lot of potential. I think there's more potential than most people think. They just see Hopkins and know what he did in Houston and go, oh, my God, there's nobody else that's going to catch a ball down there. But I really think Ertz is going to have – I agree with Charlie. He's going to be top 10. I think he'll be top 5. He might hang around there for that first season just based on volume, but he will be a top 10, maybe in that 6 to 8 range for me.
No, I think. I just traded Ertz away, but it was more just I'm trying to get younger on this team. I think he's actually going to be pretty good this year, especially the first 6 games. I think you're going to see probably top 5 out of Ertz this year in the first 6 games, and then I don't think he's going to drop all that much. When Hopkins comes back, I think he's probably going to still finish top 10. At least top 12, be that number 1 tight end for you. So, moving on, Tyler Higbee finishes tight end 14 last year. The Rams are such a good offense. He's probably going to be that number 3 target on the team behind Kupp and Robinson. What do you guys think about Higbee?
I think he has some potential to finish in the top 15. But the tight end hasn't traditionally been overly successful with the Rams over the past few years. I think it was that one season for Higbee where he was really good for a while. But other than that, it kind of really hasn't been anything special. Because they really do just like to load all the targets into their wide receivers. So I think, Cooper Kupp's going to be Cooper Kupp. Al Robinson's going to have a resurgence. And, Van Jefferson isn't going anywhere either. I think he kind of steps in as that third weapon of choice. So I'm just of the mind that Higbee's kind of going to get relegated a little bit. So.
Yeah, I think Higbee is a benefactor of what we've been talking about with a few of these tight ends, is just the sheer volume of passing that goes on in this offense, right? The ball's got to go to somebody. It cannot go to Up and Robinson every single time, every single play. He's going to get his targets. As long as he makes most of his targets, he's going to be a relevant tight end. So I think he will remain in the top 15. I wouldn't be shocked if he finished right where he finished last season. Mostly because, again, you look at his numbers, they're not shockingly good, but he's got good TDs. He's got a amount of touchdowns for the tight end position. If he can keep that up, maybe increase that a little bit more, he's definitely, for me, gonna be in that kind of, I don't even know top 3 target, but top 4, top 3, he's going to share that load, and I think they're going to have a good season. I have heard literally no one having a better offseason, better preseason, and better camps than the Rams. Everybody is saying that they had just an amazing offseason. So hopefully it's good news for every one of the ball catchers on that team.
I agree. I think the Rams are one of the best teams in the league. My big thing is, does a healthy Cam Akers take that number 3 target on the team out of the backfield? So I don't know. Higbee is probably top. Definitely, he's number 2 tight end for me. Definitely top 24, but it might be closer to 20 than it is 12 for me. So moving on here with our last 2 here, George Kittle, 49ers. He finished as tight end 4. That was with Jimmy Garoppolo. He gets Trey Lance now. Maybe. I mean, Trey Lance gets hurt, still got Jimmy, but yeah, Trey Lance stepping in as his number 1 quarterback now. You got Debo and Ayuk. What do you guys think? Because George Kittle still got top 5 potential.
Yeah, he's probably the most reliable target in that offense in my mind. He's the big safety blanket for Trey Lance, and Trey Lance is going to want that. So this is essentially going to be his rookie season coming into the league, because he just had that 1 game last year. So I think, that, not enough targets to go around. So I think that is enough to secure Kittle still as a top 5 tight end.
I agree. I think Kittle is going to be both a victim and a benefactor of the system he's in. As long as they can keep Trey Lance from running when he gets pressured in the pocket and go through his progressions, I think that'll benefit Kittle in the long run. I mean, there's nothing that feels better to a new and or rookie quarterback than to have a good, strong, reliable tight end. So I think that's going to just, all of that is beneficial to Kittle. He's going to continue to be what Kittle has always been.
I agree. I think it's actually a hard thing to pinpoint, because, like you said, Lance is going to run a lot. And typically whenever we see quarterbacks that run a lot, they don't check down. It's more like a throw deep to the receiver or take off with the ball. So I think George Kittle still has top 5 potential, but it scares me a little bit to think of Trey Lance just running like crazy constantly. So hopefully he's able to sit back. I mean, they still have a pretty decent offensive line in San Francisco to protect him. So we'll see. You've been hearing reports out of camp of the Brandon Ayuk breakout this year. He's looking really good in camp. Debo is Debo. I mean, Elijah Mitchell's still there. Hopefully Trey Lance can support multiple weapons. So let's go and move on to Noah Fant here, our last tight end. Traded from the Broncos, finishes tight end 12 in PPR last year. He's going to be that number 3 option behind Metcalf and Lockett. Does moving to Seattle just completely kill him for you guys?
I mean, yeah, he's really not going to be good for this year. It's kind of clear that the Seahawks are following the Falcons pattern. They're just going to ride with, whatever at quarterback and then hope for one of the big QBs next year. So for Dynasty, I'm fine. Absolutely holding on to Fant and just, stashing him on my bench until he gets a better situation at quarterback, because I do believe that's coming sooner rather than later for Seattle. But this year he's an absolute wash, considering that Geno Smith, the quarterback, that's not going to support a lot of weapons. That's going to be good, for a week-to-week basis, DK or Lockett. It's kind of going to be it.
I agree. I mean, I don't think there's a whole much more to add to that. Draft leagues, stay the unholy hellfire away from him. If you've already got him in Dynasty, cool, hold him, stash him, and hope for better seasons next year or seasons to come. But yeah, he's not going to be a person that I put in my lineup this year.
I agree. He's one. The Seahawks are probably going to be the second worst team in the NFL. It's probably the Falcons, and the Seahawks is 1-2 for the worst teams. So you're probably looking at Bryce Young or Ohio State's guy, CJ Stroud, as their quarterback next year. So definitely hold on to him in Dynasty because he's still young. He's only like 24, I think, 24, 25. But this year he's going to suck. So I want to go back 1 second to this Kyle Pitts, Mark Andrews debate. I just want to say last year they both had the same amount of drops, 3. And if you give Kyle Pitts the target share that Mark Andrews got, he still catches 94 footballs. So he's sitting at 94 for 149. Mark Andrews 107 for 149. Not that far off, man. Not that far off.
He had 110 targets and only caught 68 balls.
You give him the production that Andrews had, 149 targets. He's sitting at 94.
Well, you can't guarantee that.
But he's on pace.
That doesn't mean shit.
It does.
No, it doesn't.
It
Because
means
we're
everything.
projecting. We don't actually know.
It means everything. The Saints suck. The Giants suck. We're gonna get out of here.
All right, yeah. Get the hell out of here. Oh, my Broncos are so good. Lucky I love Javonte
Go
Williams.
Broncos.
Lucky I love Javonte. None of you got any shred of respect.
All right, guys. We're done.
I
Thank
only
you for
like the
tuning in.
Broncos because Ciara. All right, that's the
Yeah.
only reason I'm liking the Broncos.
I'm just saying, Russell Wilson's a very lucky guy. We are going to get out of here. That'll do it for this week. Thank you for tuning in. We're going to have a couple episodes, couple of weekly articles coming out during the season. A couple more episodes at least. So make sure you guys tune in for that. And we'll see you guys next week. Have a good week 1.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. Enjoy the season.